Uh-oh. What's happened here? Uh-oh. We got something going on with the camera here. Just a moment. It was working a minute ago. We got something going on with... Yellow. What happened? Let's see. Where am I? Okay. Huh. That's odd. That's not a bug. That's a feature. There we go. Huh, I wonder how that got changed. It must have been when I was messing around. Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. How's the video quality?
That got changed.
Oh, okay. So audio's good. Looks like the video's back on. Carbon unit failure. Operator error. Yeah, so Infinity, that's where it was. Good one. Yeah, good evening, everybody. It looks like Vincent's RV Life's in. G. Davis, he's up in Ohio. He's at 73 inside his camper. Yeah, I wonder how hard the air conditioning's running. Let's see. Vincent's up in Northwest, or up in North New York, right? And upstate New York. That's what I was trying to say. And he says it's been rainy, but the heat's starting to build up there. Yeah, and with the heat up there comes the humidity, which we've already discussed last week. And let's see, Judy Kimbrough's in from Alabama. Hello, Judy. So nice to have you here. G. Davis, Gary D is in from the Phoenix metro area. 110 today. That's brutal. It was, well, I just looked, and it was 95 outside here still. And let's see, Robert Black's checking in. Hi, Robert. And Eric Myers is in Mitchell, South Dakota. Yeah, windy there. Yeah, it's been breezy here. Yesterday was really windy, so that's probably the weather we had yesterday is what you're getting today, Eric. So yeah, welcome to this evening's chat. If you have something that you want to ask me, go ahead and throw it over in the chat window, and we'll see if we can answer your question. If you're shy and you don't want to put it in the chat, you're more than welcome to send me an email at trbolin@gmail.com, and we'll answer that offline, and then if it's interesting, we'll share it with the folks on the stream. Hello, Eric, or Tim Myers is in. Good to see you. Joy Rogers is parked at the edge of the Illinois-Missouri line. I've been there. I've traveled through that country quite a bit, actually, in the RV, the Class A when I had it. Okay, so a couple things I want to share with you tonight. We finally had a thunderstorm, and this is raw video that I'm going to share with you. It's not edited. There may be a cuss word or two, so plug your ears. There won't be too many, but yeah, you're going to get a kick out of this. So let me do a little bit of screen switching here, and let's bring this up, and then I do this. And okay, so this is unedited video. Let me make sure it looks like it's going to work with audio. Okay. Desktop audio is muted. Okay, so here we go. So here's an interesting situation. You see that? That's full of water. There is no roof up here. Obviously the blue tarp leaked, and it's filled this other gray tarp that you see here full of water. I'm gonna have to drain it out. This is gonna be interesting. I don't know if I'm gonna end up with a flood or what, but we're gonna try to carefully come in here and see if we can just pierce it. Nice fresh rainwater. Anybody want some nice fresh rainwater? So yeah, had a little incident with the tarp on the truck camper this last week. I guess it rained, I think it was like 0.16 inches. So yeah, I had two tarps on the truck camper, and one of them was a blue tarp. And actually, the way it goes is I had a blue tarp on it for the winter, and of course it kind of wore out in the corners. Those blue tarps are cheap crap, okay? And I know this, but I keep buying them. You know, what did they say about fool me or making the same mistake over and over? Anyway, so I went ahead and changed out the blue tarp, excuse me, for a silver one because I was trying to use it as a shade cloth, and it just wasn't working out. So the silver one actually didn't leak. It's a heavy duty 9 mil or whatever, and yeah, it all came out okay. There was that tarp held, that little nick I put in it. Of course, I put a piece of tape on it, but yeah, it worked out all right. I was surprised. Timothy Norman's in. Hello, Timothy. So nice to see you here. Gary D is asking me about my 7/16 part. KX Racer and I exchanged info over the weekend, and here's the deal. This stuff is the screw cover for the baggage compartment doors, okay? And I've shared this with folks before. But anyway, it's a piece of plastic. It's U-shaped. It's 7/16 wide this way, okay? The width is 7/16. And it's about half that tall. And the problem is that this is an oddball size. You can get the 1/2 inch and the 3/8 or 5/8 stuff all day long. You can buy it everywhere, but I cannot find this. I thought I had a source for it down in Riverside, Los Angeles area, but they use the 1/2 inch. So I'm kind of stuck. I don't know if I'm going to be able to replace this. I've saved quite a bit of it, so I'm going to have to come up with a different solution to cover the screws. Now it doesn't have to be. It's not watertight. Okay, so that's what I was looking for, and I've been looking for pardon me, well, 6 or 7 months now. I'm just going to have to do something else with it. If anybody's got any great ideas on what to do, how to, get around, make something like this that would be removable, because I've thought about using wood, but I'm afraid that would just be a pain. Just using a piece of wood and painting it. Anyway, so that's what that's all about, Gare. And no, I haven't had any luck. Tim Myers says, cussing. Yeah, well, I probably was cussing when I first stuck my head in the back of the truck camper when I was getting it unwrapped on Monday. When I first found that big bubble of water. Diane Brown is in from Southwest Florida. Hi, Diane. So great to see you here. She says, I have a 1990 Jayco fifth wheel and cannot find my circuit breaker. Any ideas where it could be? Okay, well, generally the circuit breaker is in the bedroom, and it's probably in an overhead compartment somewhere. At least that's pretty common to where they'll put the circuit breakers, especially like in a fifth wheel. It's probably going to be in the back in the bedroom. If anybody has any other information than that, to let me know. I don't know exactly right off the top of my head where they're at. I could surely look it up for you, though, if somebody on here doesn't know. Tim Myers is asking, yeah. Usually under the bed, but it could be tucked into a closet or behind a panel. Yeah, that's a good one, Tim, on that. Gary's laughing at my pain of the water, so's Randy. That's okay, you guys can laugh. I was laughing too. Vincent says going to need a bigger bucket. Well, I had 2 5-gallon buckets there, and there was probably a good 7 or 8 gallons up there, for sure. Fortunately, I scrounged up 2 buckets because I knew that one was probably not going to cut it. Panel. Okay, so yeah, the breaker panel on those is, I agree. It's going to be in a bedroom. It's probably going to be behind a cabinet, in a cabinet. It should be accessible. It has to be accessible by law. And it's a good idea to know where it's at. So yeah, I would just go in there and open everything until it shows up. Look under the bed. I would think in a fifth wheel that might be an odd place to put it. Typically, they like to put the breaker panel over where your inverter is, above it, inside the coach, to make the wire runs as short as possible. So whatever compartment your electrical inverter is, and sometimes that's under the bed too. But it would be good to find that. J-kill filled up in length and model. Yeah, okay, cool. Tim's going to research that while we're moving forward here. Okay, Tammy, okay, Diane. Looked at all the cabinets. We'll look under the bed and up front and pull out. Okay, so let's see here. 24-foot express. I thought your water tarp was going to get let loose. Yeah, I did too, Joy. Well, what I was afraid of is like a balloon, water balloon. When you pop it, you could hit it with a pin and then it lets go. But it held together. So good on the Harbor Freight 9mm silver tarps. I guess maybe I've finally learned my lesson, and I'm going to quit buying the blue tarps. Gary asks, have I figured out my roof issues? Well, other than it was rotten, yeah, it's basically, excuse me, I have finished the framing and the inside walls for all of the cab over, so that is completely done. And then I've done the roof, replaced it on the cab over back basically 6 feet, so about a third of the way. And then now that I've got structure up there and can hold things together, which is what I was waiting for, I've torn apart the back corner of the truck camper, the last one that was rotten. So if you remember the roof video I did about 2-3 weeks ago, and I showed you all the rot around the roof and where the previous owner had repaired the roof because it looked like the vent into the bathroom had leaked. That's a common problem with vents. They will leak if they're not maintained properly. And yeah, I mean, even on that roof, how they'd done all that fancy tape and crap, and that had absolutely not done anything to stop the water penetrating into that area. So yeah, that was totally rotten, and that rot was into the walls and that whole corner. When I got the aluminum siding off the back finally, because I had to get that opened up to start to assess, where the problems were back there, and I've got that all removed now. And the rot that was in the driver's side corner in the back, which is where the water heater is, that bathroom is there. That bathroom vent was up above that corner. There's another sewer vent that comes up there that was leaking badly. But anyway, 2 of the boards, the structures in there, completely were rotted away. Excuse me. I was outside in the garage all day because it's been so damn hot. I'm rebuilding one of the rear compartments. The one that's, basically the 1.5-foot extension that sits behind the tailgate. In that corner was totally rotten. All this plywood was rotten in it. So I was out sawing and working in the garage today, and I think I ate too much dust. Tom Downey's checking in. Oh, and so is Two Feathers. Great to see you guys tonight. So yeah, any questions that you might have, go ahead and throw them over there. That's kind of where I'm at with the truck camper. I think I've got that to do, and then I've got to finish the rest of the rear wall, rebuilding it. So basically, like I did on the front, I've taken it half apart so I can maintain structure in one corner. I'll build it back up, That'll hold that side up, keep everything square and plumb, and then I'll take the rest of the back off. The weird thing is that the side, the passenger side, is fine. It had not leaked. The wood's good. I just have to go to the corner. There's one board around the corner that is a little bit is punky, you know, from being wet. So, yeah, so question came in from Lola, it looks like. Hi, Lola. So good to see you tonight. Checking in from Colorado out there. She says the key to her front door, top one, will not turn. Key to the bottom bolt works. What to do? Get some silicone spray. One with liquid wrench works fine. CRC. But get pure silicone spray. WD-40 is fine too if you happen to have that on hand. And spray those locks and work them. Work the keys in and out, particularly the top one. And you're sure you have the right key. Let's make sure of that. But this is just good practice anyway. Just spray them a little bit of with a little bit of WD-40, or I like silicone, and work the keys in and out. And that top lock, you may have to work it quite a bit, but yeah, fill it with silicone, work that key in and out. You'll probably see that it's going to be dirty. Have yourself a little towel there, clean it off. Got another spray of silicone, work the key in and out, start working it back and forth, and you may be able to get it freed up with using silicone or WD-40 enough that it'll turn. Also, from the door side, from where the bolts come out, spray some silicone or WD-40 in there. Let's say dry lube, so I don't have to be, advertising for WD-40. Let's just say dry lube. So dry lube in the bolt area where the bolt comes in and out of the door. And then while you're there, do your hinges too. Hit the hinges on the door and spray them with a little silicone or WD-40 and let them soak in, and then wipe it off. And then while you're at it, with the silicone spray, silicone only by the way, spray the seal around the doors and wipe them all down nice, and in 10 minutes you've done all the maintenance you could do on a front door, and it'll work like new. Tom Downey asks, has anyone ever used Flex Seal for their roof recover? I have not personally. Anybody else? I've not used it. I know what it is, but I have not used it, so I couldn't comment on it, on its value. And Lola answers, yes, the correct key. Thank you. Yeah, so work it with some WD-40 or silicone. Use silicone. And like I say, then do all your seals and everything while you're at it. You're just standing there, do the seals, and that'll keep that door working good, not leaking air. So if we don't have any real questions tonight, we're going to have kind of a short call because I'm super dry for some reason today. It's been awfully warm. I will say that gas prices are finally starting to drop a little bit. Unleaded 85 octane, which is what they sell at this altitude, was running 513, and diesel had dropped a dime to 545. So it looks like gas prices are slowly starting to come down. I know that a friend of mine just took his Harley from basically Atlanta all the way back to Maine, and he was commenting on how the gas prices kept going up the further north he got. So anyway, Mickey G says, please help, the LCI jacks won't go down. Okay, what kind of rig is this, Mickey? What are you working on? Is this a class A, B, C? Well, it'll be a class C. Travel trailer, fifth wheel. Lippert jacks are pretty common. That's LCI as a short one for Lippert. And it could be a number of reasons, but what kind of jacks are they? Are they electric, hydraulic? Okay, 2015 Thor Class A. Are they electric or hydraulic? Alola Ranch says a neighbor used Flex Seal on her old coach roof. Don't know how it came out since she sold it soon after. Well, Flex Seal I guess is okay, but it's hella expensive. To do your roof with Flex Seal, that stuff's like $20 a quart. I've seen it at Home Depot. They've got it in the roofing ceiling section of the store, but it was hella expensive. I believe a gallon of Henry's Tropicool or Bright Tech, one of those two, is like $45 or $50. And so, I think the price is probably half, and that's what that product is designed for, is to seal and coat roofs. So Dom Downey says 109 per gallon for Tropiseal. I don't think so, because I was just pricing it the other day. I thought bright. I probably said Bright Tech, and that's not what I meant. Now I've completely spaced on it. It's the silicone one, as what I was after. Yeah, Tropicool. And okay, the Durabright is $92 for 5 gallons. And the Tropicool, yeah, it's pure silicone, and it was more expensive. But yeah, the 5-gallon, well, 4 3/4 gallon Henry's Durabright, which is what I was really thinking, is $92 a gallon, so, or $92 for almost 5 gallons. So, but yeah, the Tropicool, that's the real silicone one, is about $100 a gallon. All right, let me roll back into the comments here. Tom Downey, I've sanded the fiberglass with 320 grit, and it's ready to recoat. Yeah, yeah. I don't know, Tom. If it was me, I'd go with the Henrys. I mean, I've used it. It does what it says it does. And yeah, I think the Bright Tech is fine. That's got a 10-year warranty on it. Durabright, I think is what they called it. I don't remember. Durabright, Bright Tech. But, and then, of course, the silicone, you can't beat that. Especially on, like, fiberglass that's sanded and ready to go. I mean, that and redoing, lap sealing around all the seams, you ought to be in Fat City. That thing ought to be tighter than tight. Mickey G says they're hydraulic. Okay, well, the first thing, Mickey, I would do is I've tried to locate we're talking about his jacks on his 2015 Thor Class A. And the first thing you want to do is you locate the fuse and make sure the fuse is working correctly, okay? So anytime you're troubleshooting any system like that, jacks, slides, lights, 12-volt fans, anything like that, the first thing you want to do is locate the fuse and make sure the fuse is good. You want to make sure you've got power there. Now, if you find the fuse is blown, that indicates there may be a problem. Change the fuse. Fuses are inexpensive. You should carry spares anyway. But yeah, change the fuse. Try to run the system again. If it still doesn't work and that fuse is blown, then you've got an electrical problem. And so you can track that down. Now, if you can hear it turn on, all right, so if you can hear that system turn on, well, let's talk about a hydraulic jack system. Generally, when you start to run the jacks, you should be able to hear the pump, the hydraulic pump, start. And if you hear the pump start and it's not doing anything, then you got some problem with the pump. You might have a, something might be broken in the pump. The motor still might be running, but the impeller that compresses the oil has a problem. Now, if you have good power and it still doesn't run, then it could be a sensor. Those jack systems have sensors in various places. There's sensors to let it know when the jack is totally up. There's sensors to let it know when the jack is extended. Those sorts of things. And so you want to check all your sensors. And then, of course, there's the control panel. And what we'd have to do is we'd have to find the very specific instructions for your jacks. We would need to know the model and that sort of thing. But Lippert is really good about putting technical information out for troubleshooting. And we should be able to run down the technical troubleshooting information, kind of like what I did for Joy. She had an Onan generator, and I spent a few minutes after the stream last 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I don't know when it was, and ran down all the technical manuals for her, the troubleshooting manuals, that sort of stuff. Excuse me. And that's easy enough to do, and then it's just a matter of working through the troubleshooting. So I can't tell you specifically right now without doing diagnostics what might be causing the problem. But yeah, the first one I would do is check the fuse. And he says, okay, right now jacks are midway. Where's that fuse? Okay, so it sounds like the jacks might be partially extended. And he says he cannot hear it. Okay, that fuse should be in the fuse. Well, it could be in two places in that Thor. But you would need to find the 12-volt fuse panel. I don't know specifically where it is in the Thors, in the Class A's like that. But there is a 12-volt fuse panel that has those fuses in it. Newmar, and you may find this with yours too, sometimes they'll put the fuse for the jacks in a different location. So for example, the fuse for the jacks in the Newmar Class A's in the 2000 to 2015 range, 2010 range, was back in the electrical compartment, and they were inline fuses, and they could be hard to find. So I can't tell you specifically where that fuse is, and I'll look in the I will look in the comments here. Okay, I don't see anybody. But I did see, where was it? Can't hear it. That's a good question. Is the parking brake on? Are the slides in? Because sometimes there's interlocks. Sometimes you have to have the slide out before you can run the jacks. I don't know the specifics for your coach. I don't have first-hand experience with the Thors. But in general, yeah, and I wish I could tell you exactly where the fuse is. But it could be, you want to find, there should be a 12-volt fuse block somewhere. And it could be there. It could be where your chassis fuses are. It just depends on where Thor and your chassis manufacturer decided to put it. What chassis do you have? Do you know what your rolling chassis is? Is it a Ford Workhorse? Is it a Freightliner? Is it a Spartan? Is it a Roadmaster? Do you know what chassis you have? That would give me a sense on what to tell you where to look for the fuse. And while we're waiting for that answer, I'm going to go back and excuse me, catch up on the comments. We were talking about Flex Seal. I think Flex Seal is a good product for what it's designed for. I don't think it was designed to seal roofs. That's my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Tim Meyer says he saved $83 on his fill-up north of Richmond at a TA. That's pretty good. Okay, right. Okay, Joy Rogers. How can you be sure that your roof isn't leaking besides actual evidence? Eco 350 camper RV. Well, that's a really good question. How old is it? If it's older than about 10 years, I could say your roof is probably leaking. What condition are the seams in? where things come together. What do the seams look like? Are they well sealed, or is the seam cracking? The caulking is actually lap sealant. I won't confuse people by calling it caulking. It's lap sealant. It may be caulking depending upon how it was constructed. But is that in good shape, or is it cracked up? If that's cracked, if you have any cracks in the seams, if it looks like the seam is, if there's dirt accumulating in the lap sealant, or right next to the seam, there should be some kind of a metal plate over the seams usually. Then you probably have a leaking roof. The way to tell is carefully get up on the roof and press on the roof and see if it's spongy, or if it gives, or if it crackles. Okay? If it's spongy, and what I mean by spongy is you push it and you can just feel the roof giving way, or it crackles when you push it, then you have a leak. From the inside, then you go to the inside and do the same thing on the roof, on the ceiling, and gently press, because sometimes you'll find this, and you don't want to have a thumb hole in your ceiling if you find a leak until you can get around to fixing it. But you get in there and you can press on the ceiling and you'll feel it being spongy, you'll feel it wet, and or it'll be crackly, right? It'll crackle in your thumb. You'll feel like your thumb's going to go through the actual roof. Then you got a water leak. The way to prevent it is to do the maintenance on the seals and replace the sealant on the seals where all the seams come together and around every penetration through the roof. So every roof vent, every vent from the plumbing system, any other penetrations, if there's an antenna, refresh that sealant. It's a really easy project to do. Okay? I don't recommend trying to scrape out the old sealant, except in the places where it's cracked or failed. Okay? If the sealant looks fine, it might be dirty, but if it's deeply cracked and creviced, and it's accumulating dirt in that, then with a plastic putty knife, plastic only, because you don't want the underlying, you don't want to damage the underlying roof material and create yourself another problem. But you can carefully remove that lap sealant and replace it. Otherwise, just go over the top. Okay? Just go over the top with lap sealant. If it's sealed with lap sealant, I'm not familiar with that particular an Eco 350 camper RV. I'm betting it probably uses lap sealant on the roof. And so yeah, you could just go over the old lap sealant. But yeah, if it's cracked and it's obviously clearly failed, then you probably have a leak, unless you're really lucky. And the way to prevent that is to reseal it. The way to fix it is watch the videos coming on my channel, because I'm doing a ton of it. I was thinking today, I was just looking at it, while studying on how to put this container back together that I took apart. And I'm thinking to myself, damn, I could have just completely rebuilt the exterior of this, because I practically have. There'll be about half of it that I haven't had to replace. Maybe not even half. Maybe a third. I might be too optimistic, and I've been called out on that in the past a couple of times about being optimistic. But yeah, so... but even still, this is just more fuel for Tom Downey to beat me down about I should have just bought another one, a new one. And that's fine. It's his opinion. He's worth it. He gets his own opinion. I do too. So do you. Vincent RV Life says his son sending a pinch for. Vincent RV Life said his son sent him a pic today from Richmond at $3.89 a gallon. Wow, $3.89. That would be nice. Yeah, the G Davis, he says he loves the Flex Seal spray cans. Why am I struggling with speaking tonight? I must be dehydrated. Like I say, what it's made for, it works good. I don't think it was made to completely reseal a roof. If you're in a pinch, you got a leak, you need to get it sealed up fast, then that may be the way to go. You don't have time to prep. it may be the way to go. Okay. Tom uses Flex Seal. Good. Gary D says he lives in Arizona, 2 blocks from the sun. That's funny. So he's always thinking UV and heat. Yeah. Okay. Lola asks, would I use Tropicool for spot sealing on a roof or full roof? I think I would generally use Tropicool or Bright Tech on a full roof. You could use it for spot sealing. There would be nothing wrong with that at all. But in a pinch, the Flex Seal would be fine for spot sealing. I can tell you this: it's a son of a beep to get off because there was some on this roof. I think people are gonna freak out when they see what I'm gonna do with my roof, but I'm not gonna completely coat the roof. It's aluminum. I'm gonna polish it. I'm gonna take it back to a wire brush polish finish. I think that's gonna reflect more heat, and it's gonna blind airplanes. Tom Downey says he's tired of fooling with the roof. It's the 3rd time I've recoated it. Then I would spend the money on the Tropicool pure silicone, and I would go with that, right? Because I guarantee you the silicone, it's going to last 10 years. That stuff is the bomb, as the kids say. That is the bomb. So I would go with the silicone if I was going to seal a roof, like what you're talking about, a fiberglass. Okay, let's see. Okay, we were chatting with Mickey G about his jacks, and yeah, fluid levels. Typically, the fluid level might be on an interlock. In other words, if the fluid was low, that might prevent the pump from running. But that would be one of the troubleshooting steps that you would find once we figure out what the make and the model. Well, it's Lippert, but what model of jacks they are. So we can go find the technical manual and the troubleshooting steps on it. And I'd be happy to do that and help you with that for sure. So Mickey, if you still need help, he says the slides are in. I'm going to scan the comments and then I'll come back. Fluid is good. Okay. Slide, just one slide, and it's in. Okay. It's the coach isn't running, right? You don't have the motor running because sometimes there'll be an interlock with the motor. I know that the owner of my coach, the guy that bought my coach, Rick, he called me because he couldn't get one of the slides to run, and he had the coach running. And so a lot of times, to prevent the accidental deployment of a slide while you're going down the road, they'll put an interlock on it. And if the ignition's running, the slides won't operate, and it may be the same with the jacks. If the ignition's turned on, I don't know how that system works specifically. Or maybe I should say not if the ignition's turned on, but if the engine is running, there may be an interlock that said that stops it from operating. So again, I'd have to know the model number. Happy to help you look that up and see if we can get you troubleshot. Tom Downey says a Turnabond will not stick to anything. It has a Teflon top cover. I've already tested Flex Seal and it won't stick. Yeah. Well, it may not stick to. I'm not following what you mean here. It has a Teflon top cover. The original layer of a Turnabond will stick. I guarantee you. You go look at my very first video on replacing the roof on my Class A, and I spent 6 hours removing a Turnabond tape that I had used to seal up a problem I had on up on my cowling, where I taped across the seam and down onto the cowling. And I actually ended up having to use gasoline to get the glue off. That was the only thing I could find that would take the glue off. I couldn't really use acetone because there were other materials in the area, and I was afraid if the acetone slopped around, it'd cause other problems. I'm sure acetone would have taken it off, but I used gasoline. But yeah, I don't know if stuff will stick to that. G. Davis, yes, fluid lever. Let me, Eric beat me by seconds. Let's see. Okay, sorry, but when I get into the comments like this, they jump a little bit. Okay, Tim Meyer says, if the fuse is good, if the jack's halfway down, it was working. And he says, can you call customer service at Thor? Yeah, that's a good question. You might call your RV manufacturer's toll-free support number. And a lot of times they'll work you through the troubleshooting of it. They'll have the troubleshooting at their fingertips. They'll know what was installed in that because they'll get the serial number of your coach. And they'll know what it was equipped with, the jacks wise, what kind of chassis it's on. Okay, it's an Ace Ford V10. Okay, so I see that. I'm just scanning the comments here. Okay, Ace Ford V10. Let me just make a quick note here, Mickey. Let me get a pencil that's actually got lead in it. I don't have the time during the stream to look at this up, but I will see what I can find for you. 2015 Thor. Class A. Okay. Mickey, please email me, trbolin@gmail.com. We will continue this discussion after the stream. I have a few minutes. Oh, wow, it's already 7:45. After the stream, I have a few minutes tonight, and I'll see if I can quick find the technical information on that and see if we can figure out what kind of jack system it is, and maybe we can find the troubleshooting for it. My bet is that if the jacks are half down and they quit working, I would check the fuse first. For some reason it might have overloaded. Okay, skinning down here. Two Feathers asks, anyone know what would cause the LED light above my kitchen sink to flicker? Usually a bad ground. You know, as you've been rolling down the road, there's a wire that's probably loose. There may be a wire loose on the light fixture itself. It could be a wire loose. Is there a wall switch for the light fixture, or is it a light fixture with a switch in the fixture? It's pretty easy to pop those off. Two Feathers, and check the connections. Also, is it a bulb type, a bulb replacement type LED, or is it a strip LED like fixture? But yeah, I would suspect a loose connection. Flex Seal is 109 per gallon. Oh, okay. Tom used 6-inch Turnabond to seal all his seams. Okay. Joy Rogers. Okay, definitely older RV. Thanks. I'll check the seams. I know what you mean by spongy or crackly. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a first sign. And yeah, if it's older or the seal of the sealer used on the seams is cracking, you probably have a little leak. Unless you got lucky. Unless they use really good butyl tape under the seams and that kind of stuff. But even then, yeah, if it's older, you probably have a little bit of leaking in it. Let's see here. Tom says it's fun hanging my chain. Yeah, that's cool. No worries. Judy Kimbrough says she bought gas in Alabama for $3.76. Blinding planes. Yeah, the speed, the radar plane, right? That's the one you want to blind. Tom Downey says, tell me how I have spent 3 weeks cleaning all this stuff off. Gasoline. For whatever reason, it seemed to work. You wouldn't want to use acetone on a fiberglass roof. I don't think the gasoline would do much damage, if any at all, to the fiberglass roof. Gasoline seemed to work pretty good. But I know, it's a dirty bug. They don't call it a Turnabond for nothing. Okay, side conversation. Oh, KX Racer J made it in. We were talking about you behind your back around the trim strips. Thanks for the effort. But yeah, unfortunately, they're just a tad too big. It looks like Tom and Tim are going to connect out there. Would be, so that's cool. Gary D says aluminum is a great cold and heat transfer metal. Look into how Boeing stopped the transfer. I worked on the 777. It was an issue. Yes, I actually have a video working on insulation because I've already started considering that. I chatted a bit last week with Jay. He asked that question. KX Racer, sorry. He asked a question about insulation, and what I've found is a thermal 5 millimeter blanket, 5 millimeters of closed cell foam with aluminum mylar coating on the outside on both sides, and so that stops that radiant heat from penetrating through the roof and through the walls. And the last layer that goes on before the skin goes on, before the siding goes on, is going to be that mylar aluminum 5 millimeter foam. They list it with an R of, get this, 15. All right, I think that's probably because of the radiant coating on both sides, so it should reflect heat from the outside. It should keep heat or cold on the inside. We're going to find out, because that's what I'm gonna do. I was gonna use spray foam, but the spray foam is a little expensive. But I think I found an alternative solution using these insulation blankets. That's what I'm going to call them. It's very similar to Reflectix, like the Mylard bubble wrap that people use to, line windshields and windows and stuff like that. But rather than having the bubble air, which is a good insulator, but the closed cell foam, this stuff that they're using apparently must be really damn good. But I'm going to try it. Ben Whitting, he says, what do I think about that EPDM roofing? I got a leak around the sunlight. I don't know if I should patch it or redo the whole roof. It's over 10 years old. Well, if that's the only place is around the skylight, I would not replace it. If the rest of the roof is in okay shape, I would not replace it. It is a job. Okay? I have a series of videos on my channel replacing the roof on my Class A. It's easily done if you've got basic carpentry skills. There's nothing to it, but it is a lot of work. I will tell you that. So what I would do is I would get some Eternabond tape. Time for a cheap commercial from my Amazon store. There's a link in the description below. Remember, I'm an Amazon affiliate. I'll get a small commission. You'll pay the same price. But yeah, you can pick up Eternabond from Amazon, and that stuff is great. And that's a good, I said I used Eternabond to seal up a problem I had. That was 3 years, and it didn't come back. So I think it's a good solution, especially for like a skylight repair. That way you can kind of wrap it up around the skylight. It's a flexible tape. And that's what I would do rather than replace the whole roof. Now, if there's other problems in the roof, structural problems, you remember if you've been here and we were talking about sponginess or crackling, if you're up on the roof and you feel it's spongy or it's crackly, that means you've got some structural issues below, and also might mean that you might have a mold problem. So roof leak issues, any leak in an RV needs to be addressed to prevent mold problems, and they happen, and they can be very damaging and detrimental to your health. So anyway, with all of that said, if it's just that thing that's problem, if it's just the sunlight that's a problem, then I would just seal that. But if you have other issues on the roof, then I would not hesitate, if you have basic carpentry skills, to replace the roof. Oh, Mickey says the jacks came back up. Excellent. Oh, and he asked, oh, sorry, I didn't answer all of Ben's questions. EPDM roofing is the way to go. That's what I put on my RV when I replaced it. It formerly had TPO, originally had TPO, but I went with EDPM. It's great roofing. It's easy to work with. I used the Dicor. I used all Dicor stuff on it. The Dicor butyl tape. I used the Dicor lap sealant. I used the Dicor glue. I got a kit, a reseal kit. It was a couple $100. It came with 2 gallons of glue. I mean, you know, it was a good deal. I bought my roof from RecPro. The material, there is a discount link in the description of this video to RecPro that will save you some money if you use me as your referral affiliate. The details are in the video description. And yeah, the Dicor I got off of Amazon, and you know, the Dicor was really forgiving. So when I was laying the rubber down, it's not like contact cement. It's down, it's there. I could lift it and reposition the roof and get the wrinkles and everything out, and then I rolled it down, and yeah. My email is trbolin@gmail.com. That's trbolin, BOWLIN, @gmail.com. I'll be looking for your email, Mickey. And I'm glad they came back up. So I'm assuming you didn't have to change a fuse. Yeah, I got you, Tom, that the top coating of a Turnabon is Teflon and it will not, nothing will stick to it. I believe that's correct. I think other Turnabon might. In fact, I know it does. Okay, Two Feathers, we were talking about her LED light over her sink. I suspect it's a loose connection, Two Feathers. And or maybe the contact in the light might be dirty. You can clean that with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Usually you can see up in the switch. If you can't, you know, the first thing I would do is check the switch and make sure the switch is fully on or fully off, fully on, I guess in this case. And then, or it could be a loose connection, and those lights, you know, there's usually just a couple screws. You can undo those and take it down and then check the wires going into it, tug on them, and make sure they're solidly connected. That'd be a couple things that I would start with. Oh, Tim Myers. Okay, Tim got the manual for him. Excellent. Perfect. Acetone will not harm poly fiberglass. That might be true. Let me think. I don't know. I'd have to look that up, but you might be right. Acetone might be okay on fiberglass, on some fiberglasses. Anyway, and acetone would probably work okay on removing that the Turnabon adhesive. And they don't call it a Turnabon for nothing. I'll say it again. KX Racer says, yeah, that seems like a high R value for only 5 millimeters thick. That's why I'm skeptical. But I'm gonna have foam underneath it, right? I'll have foam board underneath it, so I'll have some insulative value. But yeah, they claimed R15 and only R21 in 2 layers. But I think that's because you're losing 2 reflective surfaces. So in some cases, in some places in my truck camper, there'll be 2 layers. KX Racer says, what am I going to do for the other portion of my 3/4 walls? I can't find any 3/4 inch foam board insulation, so I'm going to use 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to use that insulation blanket to make up the other 1/8 or a quarter. 5 millimeters is actually slightly less than a quarter. It's 1.25 millimeters less. A 1/4 inch is 6.25 millimeters. But that's, that's a whisker. I can make that up when I put the siding back on. As you well know, there's plenty of flexibility in that siding. And then there was an old paper clad foam board that was roughly a 1/4 inch thick, and I'll be basically saving, a couple millimeters in that. So when I put the siding back on, I should be in okay shape. The seams should be good and tight. I've tried to be really careful and keep the seams good and tight, and not change dimensions so that I have large gaps to try to fill. I want to try to reuse all my corner trim if I can, like you did, Guy. Yeah, okay, so Tim's going to send me the manual, and we'll get that over to Mickey. And Mickey and I will chat a little bit offline via email after the stream to see if we can get him going. Yeah, Tom says the Turner bond's been down 7 years. It's like new. Yep. Yeah, it's good stuff, but it's. And then Tim tells Mickey to check out 62. They're exchanging. We will see if I've got an email up here. All right, so if I get emails, I will act the middleman, and we'll see if we can get Mickey going. And we'll catch you up next week if we get an update from Mickey that it's working. I forgot to do the obligatory cheap commercial of, if you like this video, that thumbs up is always greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, ring the notification bell. Visit my website, trbolin.com. Lots of great information over there that you won't find on YouTube. Your support of my Amazon store is greatly appreciated. You can click through the affiliate link in the description for this video. That will take you over to Amazon. Then you can go anywhere on Amazon and purchase what you'd like. I'll get a small commission. You'll pay the same price, and I will be very thankful for sure. People think you make a lot of money on YouTube, and you might have noticed tonight I turned the monetization, I turned the commercial off at the beginning of the video, and I'm going to turn it on after the video stream tonight, so I will enable monetization, or I will enable commercials after the video stream. So you get the bonus of no commercials if you watch the live stream live. But immediately after on the replay, then I will monetize it. I'll be honest with you. This video I might make $2 on in a month on the whole video. So it's not a lot. But I love interacting with you. I love helping you out. And so you're reciprocating by supporting my channel by using the link to Amazon is really greatly appreciated. Ben Whitting says, awesome, thanks, I appreciate you and love what you're doing. Keep it up. Thank you, Ben. Tell your friends, for sure. Share the love. Share the channel. Gary D says, what am I thinking for solar? Okay, I have my solar basically picked out, and I've got part of it. I'm going to have 500 watts of Renogy solar panel. Okay, I bought those at Christmas time. I got a great deal on them, $65 a piece. So yeah, they were super cheap. I kind of had to pull a sneaky, and because they wouldn't sell you more than 3 panels. So I called a friend of mine. I says, hey, go buy 2 of these panels. I'll pay you for them. So I got my 5 for, basically 65 cents a watt, and usually it's around $1 for solar panels. And then I'll have Battleborn 100 amp hour lithium batteries. I've got the golf cart. Actually, I have the GC2 verticals, and then I'll have a Renogy MPPT solar charge controller. I'll have a Renogy charger inverter, and I'll have a Renogy DC to DC charge controller. That's going to be my solar. I looked at Victron. I couldn't justify the hard expense. Victron's great equipment. I loved it. I had it in my Class A, but trying to stay within a reasonable budget here, so that's the way it's going to go with solar electrical in this RV. Truck camper, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I'm working on there. Van Whitting, what's the difference between them? Disconnected. Between something I said. See, that's the problem. What do you mean, Ben? Ask me the question again. Hi, Roundtown Scouter. Great to see you. Always better late than never. Yeah, Tom Downey says boats are made of fiberglass gel coat. Acetone doesn't hurt it. Yeah, I know in boats it doesn't, but I would definitely test it on an RV fiberglass roof before I go slopping it around up there. You can make yourself one hell of a mess. You could be refiberglass and relaminating some fiberglass if you're not careful. There may be other materials up there that might not be, compatible with acetone too. Anything rubber, obviously. But yeah, I would be sure and test it. But yeah, on boats, on the gel coat, acetone's fine. KX Racer says, as I probably know, reuse as much of the siding trim parts as I can on the rebuild because finding replacements that actually work fit is usually hard with older campers. Absolutely. I do have a source for the Mesa siding, okay, for this stuff, because this is oddball also, right? The spacing, the way it's laid out, the ways it's measured. I got a real education when I called Intermountain Metals over in Portland, and now they can make this piece of cake, she says. So, but you're right. I saved every piece of metal and every piece of trim. The only metal that might not be salvageable is the drip rail at the top. So there's the corner seal, and then there was the drip rail. And I think the drip rail, I might have to replace that. But you're right, and I am. Thank you, Joy. I appreciate your joining and participating in the discussion tonight. It's always nice to have you here, everybody. Thank you, Gary. KX Racer, how many watt inverter and how many amp DC to DC? I'm going to go with a 2,000 watt inverter, which will have a 100 amp charger, and then probably a 40 amp DC to DC. And the reason I'm only going with a 40 is that I'm anticipating that most of my excursions are going to be in the summer. I mean, when I'm in Arizona in the winter, I'll have to idle the truck but I'll be moving fairly frequently in Arizona, and so I think I'll be okay with the 500 watts because I don't really have a huge alternating current load, and in Arizona in the winter, after November, excuse me, and Gary might be able to down there in Phoenix might be able to collaborate this. After November, middle of November or so, you really don't need AC. Yeah, you might get some 80, 85, 90 degree days, but those are tolerable. But what I am looking for is I'm going to put, excuse me, talking too much. I'm going to put a 6-foot awning on the rear of the truck camper. So I'll have awning coverage over, the rear. I love that Tim Meyer's asking how the new keyboard works. It's great. It's so nice. It's it's practically brand new. I'm addicted to these. I had changed to a different keyboard. My typing had gone to hell, but I'm back. I'm comfortable with it. I've used one of these for over 20 years now. I have a hard time on a flat keyboard. A laptop, it's a different story. I can do fine on my laptop. But on the desktop, having this keyboard is great. It's really nice. Gary D says he wants a batteries conversation next Tuesday. Okay, well, we've chatted a lot about batteries on the stream here over the last year. Is there something specific you would like to talk about, Gary, on batteries? Because we can do some comparison between lithium and lead acid. I'm happy to chat about batteries. Just let me know what you want to chat about in advance, and I'll put together a little deal. I've got some pretty cool graphics on charging and all kinds of stuff that I could share with the group. And so, yeah, that would be fun. Good question. Joyce says that was her next question. Yeah, Tom Downey says Victron was all he did when he did the upgrade. Yeah, Victron's great gear, don't get me wrong. But for me, it's just a little overkill for what this is. I think the Renogy's going to work just fine. I know it is. There's no question about it. I've done enough research on it to know that Renogy is a dang good company. If they weren't, I wouldn't have gotten set up to be an affiliate. Yeah, adding solar, of course, yeah. And she says, and then, of course, after checking out the roof. Yeah, and to be honest with you, Joy, that's why I ended up replacing the roof on my Class A. Excuse me. The Turnabond tape job I did to seal up the leaking seam worked perfectly. Like I say, after 3 years, it was fine. The problem did not reoccur. But I had water damage in the roof, and I wanted to put solar panels on. I put 1,860 watts of solar on my Class A. And it was a beast. It was a boondocking beast. I could go out, well, in 2019, I boondocked 114 days, and I put 9 hours on my generator in 114 days being off grid. And 4 of those hours were exercising hours. I didn't even need to run it. So anyway, I think 500 watts for the rig that I've got for what I'm going to have. I'm not going to be having, there's not large loads. I don't plan on running the AC off the batteries. That's just not practical. I mean, it can be done, yeah, but you got to have a ton of batteries. My air conditioning is going to be to find altitude. Okay, when it starts to get hot, I'm going to go up. I know spots up here just 110 miles from me, right up around Yellowstone, that are around 6,000, 6,500 feet. And at Old Faithful today, it was 96 here. It was 76 at Old Faithful, and that's 2 hours and change north of me. So yeah, when it gets hot, I'll just find altitude. Yeah, Tim says styrofoam is another one to watch with acetone. Yeah, it'll melt it instantly. Joey Two Feathers says, isn't cleaning under a solar panel an issue? No. I mean, I have mine really stealthily mounted. I mean, they were really low to the roof, but just a blast of water underneath it, and they were fine. It would just blow out. So the only issue with having them close to the roof is that solar panels, when they get hot, are less efficient. So you lose a little efficiency having a little less airflow under the panel, but I think it was a small trade-off. Like I say, with the amount of solar that I had on, never really wanted for power. Lola asks, please advise a specific silicone spray to buy for the lock. I'll buy on my Amazon account. Thank you. Well, thank you, Lola. Okay, get the CRC silicone spray. If you go into Amazon, to my store, and go to my handy items for RV owners storefront, you'll find the CRC on that page, I believe. Let me go look real quick just to make sure I'm not, talking poop. But I believe the CRC, when you go into my storefront, you'll see handy items for RV owners. And, yep, the CRC spray is on that page. And I like that one a lot. I use it on a lot of stuff. Yeah, for locking rubber around the door. Yeah, the CRC. Just get pure silicone spray. The CRC, it's the bomb. It's the one to use. Gary D says our winters are not winters. Yeah, it's not like Idaho or anywhere else. Hey, Eat Travel Happy's in. So good to see you guys. Welcome aboard. Ben Whitting says the EDPM and TPO roofing. No, just for the masses. I'm sold on lithium. Yeah, me too. Gotcha. What do you mean? Okay, let's see. I got it. Ben said, what's the difference between EDPM and TPO? The formulation, what the roof is, what the roof is made out of. TPO is a Teflon, poly, olefinic, blah, 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 blah. And EDPM is elastomeric polymachuca. Okay, it's just the chemical formulation of them. The Teflon is a little tougher and lasts a little better than EDPM, but they're both 10, 15-year roofs if they're maintained properly. That means every spring you get up and clean them up, scrub them down with a good multi-purpose soap. Don't buy anything special. That's just all this special stuff. It's just a scam to get you to spend money for something you already have in the cabinet. You know what? I'll be honest with you. You know what I use to clean my EDPM roof? Parsons ammonia. Period. Parsons ammonia. Now you want to make sure you get it rinsed off really good, and you rinse it off your coach real fast, because if you have a full paint coach and you got a wax job on it, that Parsons is going to strip that wax right off. But the way I always did my maintenance was top down. I would scrub my roof with the Parsons, get it all nice and shiny and clean, carefully wash and wax the RV, and you're good to go. Tom Downey says, Tom Downey says, that was all there was when we did the upgrade. Yeah. Now there are several other companies, for sure. Yep. There's SunPower. There's a number of them, and they're all okay, right? But my research has said that Renogy is going to be the way I go. Now, here's what will happen. When I get to the point where I've got the Renogy solar panels, I've got the Battleborn lithium batteries, but I bought those, basically over Christmas time. Battleborn had a blem sale, right? So a nick and dent sale on their batteries, and I got 2 of the batteries, and I don't know where they're blemmed or nicked and dented, and I got them for basically 2/3 of list, which was an amazing deal. Lola says, all this talk about leaking roofs has me worried about my 5th wheel roof. Used a good amount of lap sealant last summer. Good. If you stay ahead of it and keep it sealed up, you'll be fine, right? And even a crunchy roof is fine. Okay? Even a crunchy roof is fine. If you don't have plans to do any major work on your RV, the only reason, as I said earlier, the only reason I replaced my roof is because I knew I had crackly, crunchy plywood, which meant it had delaminated, and I wanted to mount solar panels, and I didn't want the solar panels lifting off the roof at 65, 70 miles an hour when I was rolling down the road, because the roof itself failed and the fasteners pulled out, the screws. So that's why I ended up replacing my roof. Was to get a good substructure under there so that I could put my solar on. And it was only the back third of the roof that needed work. The rest of it was, well, there was a couple issues, but it wasn't bad. So yeah, don't sweat it, Lola. You'll be fine. If it sounds like you're keeping up on the maintenance, you're keeping it sealed, you're using lots of lap sealant. Yeah, if it's even a crunchy roof is fine, even a spongy roof is fine. If you're not doing anything up there, let sleeping dogs lie, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Tim, that's correct. Solar panels are good at reflecting heat away from the roof. Yes, they are. But they also get very warm. and right underneath that solar panel can really be cooking. KX Racer. I must have missed this, but what is the reason for only going with 500 watts of solar on truck camper? Is it a roof space restriction? Yes. That's all I could really fit up there. Once I get it all put back together, I might be able to sneak one more panel up there, which would actually make for a good solution, because I could do a parallel serial type of a arrangement. We'll talk more about that later, about optimizing how the panels are put together, because if one panel gets shaded, everything that's attached to that panel also gets knocked down in its collecting capacity. There's ways around that. The way I did the roof on my Class A was there was 6 panels, and so each set of 2 panels was its own array, and then they all tied back to the inverter, so no one panel would pull down all 6. But yeah, it's roof space restriction. Yeah, solar panel in Arizona, not a problem. Absolutely not. The sand van from Australia, my gosh. I have one of my best friends and buddy from college that said, well, he was in Brisbane, but he's moved south of there down the coast. I really want to make it to Australia. So happy to see you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Do you have a YouTube channel? Because we like to share people with YouTube channels here as a courtesy to help you get more viewers. I also watch that guy Bus Life New Zealand. They're back on, and I watch him. He's down in New Zealand, and I've been to New Zealand. I spent a month there. So welcome, 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 the sand van. E-Travel Happy, they're headed. We're hearing in the forums that Zepp's wet look floor polish is great as a polish for fiberglass. Yes. But when it starts to fail, it looks like hell. And it can be stripped off. Parsons ammonia. Go in there, scrub it off with some Parsons, dry it off, put a new coat on. It's going to shine like new. It's just like maintaining the floor. But it doesn't last forever, and when it starts to fail and it gets to flaking, it looks like crap, you'll want to go in and scrub your RV down. If you've had floors that you've used floor wax on, that'll give you some kind of a sense of what it's like to maintain your fiberglass RV that you're using the Zepp floor wax on. Okay, but yeah, it works good. And Scott Mogich is reaching out to the sand van. Yeah, that's cool. Gary D, we supplement the roof panels with 2 flex panels I can move around. Yeah, and I have considered that too, Gare, is maybe doing some flex panels. We'll see after I do, a couple weeks of camping in the rig. I'll have a pretty good sense pretty quick if I've got enough solar up there. I think I will. I just, like I say, since I'm not trying to run AC, I just don't see that where I'm going to not, where 500 watts won't keep my batteries, pretty well topped off, especially with 200 amp hours of capacity. I mean, I only had 400 amp hours in my 40-foot Class A, and I had an electric fridge, total electric fridge. I ran this workstation that you don't see, but that I'm working on right now, which is a full-size, computer that is a workhorse. It's a power hog, especially when I'm editing videos. I think I got a pretty good system, but we'll get it sorted for sure. Scotty says, all this tech talk makes me feel like becoming an RV nerd. I wouldn't advise it. You know, your friends think you're crazy. Oh, okay. So Tama Samoa asks, "What do I recommend to be the best full-time live-in RV?" Well, it really depends on you and your budget and what you can afford and how you expect to be a full-time RVer. All right. That's a really good question. It is 8:20, so I'll spend a few minutes on this and then we'll wrap her up for tonight because I generally try to keep these down to an hour. It depends on how you expect to be a full-time RVer. Are you going to be a full-time RVer that works, or are you going to be a retiree? How do you like to travel? Do you plan on going to a place and staying for a month or a 6 weeks? Or are you going to be popping around from week to week to week to week? If you'll answer those two questions, then I will make some general recommendations on travel trailers, fifth wheels, Class A's, Class B's, Class C's. I can give you you know, a high level uh, idea about what might be best for you. What is best for you is going to be different than what is best for me or Gary or Lola. And Lola's a full-timer, but she's static. Okay, and she lives in a fifth wheel. So we do have a few full-timers that check in and out. We have a lot of snowbirds. Okay, snowbirds are as good as full-timers because oftentimes they're spending 4 to 5 to 6 months in their rigs in Florida or Arizona or other warm climates, you know, South Padre Island in Texas, and you know, the Gulf Coast, you know, even down in Alabama where Judy is, people will snowbird. Okay, you're living in Missouri. That's cool. So, and are you just now birder me? Okay, so are you going to be traveling, Tama? Or are you going to be static? Because if you're going to be static, don't waste your money on a motorized RV, a Class A or a Class C. All right, just don't even waste the money on it. Go get yourself a travel trailer or a fifth wheel and just live in that. And if you are going to be moving, say, once a month, once every 2 or 3 weeks, then it's sort of a toss-up. No travel. Okay, that settles it. A travel trailer or a fifth wheel. Those are your options. How much space you need is going to determine which is going to be best for you. If you need a lot of space, then a fifth wheel. If you need a medium amount of space, then a travel trailer might work for you. I think if it's a long-term situation, I think a fifth wheel may be a better solution. I know Lola's been in her fifth for a long time. I know a lot of folks that live in fifth wheels full time, and they're very happy with them. So, you know, if you can swing it. And Lola says she'd be a sunbird if I had a good pickup to pull her fifth. Yeah, I totally get that. And that's the thing about a fifth, right? You know, a pickup can pull it, you know, pretty readily. And so I would say, yeah, if you're going to be static, fifth wheel for the space is going to be probably a good way to go. And you should be able to find a reasonably good used fifth wheel for not a lot of money. Yes, long term. Okay, yeah. I would go with a fifth wheel. Tama would be my recommendation. Two Feathers, he says, what type of scope do you have for birds? I'm thinking of getting one. Mark Ricker, okay. He says, it's wondering if it's okay to keep your motorhome plugged in constantly. Also, can you start your motorhome while plugged in? Yes and yes. It is just fine to leave your motorhome plugged in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you have the ability to do that, do it. Okay? One What you might look into is getting a chassis battery maintainer if you don't have one. And, they're just little 5 amp battery chargers that you put on your chassis batteries. Your house batteries, if you're plugged in, are probably already being maintained. So yeah, that's perfectly fine. And yes, it's absolutely fine to start and run the RV if you're plugged into in your what's called pedestal power or shore power. It is absolutely perfectly fine to start your RV when you're plugged in. Just don't forget and leave and jerk the pedestal out of the ground. The RV park or campground owner is not going to appreciate that. You're very welcome, Mark. Thank you. Thank you, Tama, for joining us tonight. Feel free to ask any questions you might have. But it is 8:30, and wow, time really flew by. So, thanks, Gary. Thanks for watching. Thanks, everybody. We're gonna call this one good. Had a great time tonight. I hope you did as well. If you like this, give me that thumbs up. Don't forget that. Support the channel by visiting Amazon through the link in the description. Also, don't forget there's a link in there for RecPro for a discount. There's a Renogy Solar discount link in there. I'm a nice guy, so go over and check out my website. And with that, we're going to call it good. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining me tonight. We'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Tell your friends, invite your friends, share it on Facebook, and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Peace. Bye-bye.